Welcome to this latest edition of the Ril Dil Podcast. I'm your host, Cyril Quinn, recording this, of course, on a Tuesday, episode 1016, titled Generational. We'll discuss that. A big time college football and NFL program podcast we have coming up. This obviously was a heavy laden college football weekend. You had 5 straight days of college football. Had some matchups. Really, only one matchup matriculated into being an excellent game, and that's of course Miami Notre Dame. But we're going to begin with what happened in the horseshoe in the Ohio State, where you had Ohio State able to survive Texas 14-7. A game that, excuse me, uh, 21-14. A game, frankly, that wasn't really that close. A game where that was really an ugly game, to be perfectly honest with you. Excuse me, 14-7. A game that wasn't even as close as really that close. Ohio State was seemingly in control of this game from start to finish. And the story of this game, um, but there's really one story of this game, and that was the just perplexing play of one Arch Manning. Um, so Arch Manning comes in to this season as a Heisman favorite, a number one favorite to be the number one pick in the draft. Um, Obviously, he's football royalty. He's been called a generational talent. Um, and he was awful in the game. Now, the Ohio State defense is a legit defense. Matt Patricia, we know, can coach defense, NFL pedigree, built, of course, did worked with Bill Belichick, New England, those a few years back. Um, Anybody can have a bad game against Ohio State. The defense is that legit. They're not as talented as they were last year, but there'll still be a number of guys that play on Sunday that come from that defense. Week one, you have basically a month, the whole offseason to scheme for your week one opponent. Um, I guess there was a tweet that posed the question: Is Arch Manning generational bust or a generational talent? And I want to tell you, he's neither. Um, if his name wasn't Manning, we would just be talking about him as a another highly touted quarterback with some talent, with some athleticism, who will play on Sunday. We would not be using the term of generational anything. He has not played enough football for anyone to make that assessment of him. And the truth of the matter is, you're talking about a guy who couldn't beat out a guy who will probably never start in Quinn Ewers, a guy who probably more than likely will never be a consistent starting NFL quarterback. At best, will be at best a journeyman quarterback. So to me, that had to tell you all you need to know about where Arch Manning is at right now in his career. Now he has 3 years of eligibility this year, along with 2 more years. He has 3 years of eligibility left, right? Three. So it's conceivable that he could be okay this year, come back next year and be dominant next year. That's on the table. But what I've seen of Arch Manning so far early in his career, in a small sample size, it doesn't re it forget about again, let's put the title generational aside. I I've seen a guy who, was athletic, has a good arm, but he doesn't whatever that it factor is, whatever that wow factor is. What I don't see it. And I didn't see it last year. And again, I wanted to last year. I never got caught up in the hype of Arch Manning coming into the season. I said I just need to see more. I have not seen enough body of work to anoint this guy the second coming. I'm sorry, it's just not there. And again, this is how much the Manning name is worth. I mean, again, the Manning name is royalty. They have three guys, three Hall of Fame quarterbacks in their family. Three, four Super Bowls between of course Peyton and Eli. So I get it from that standpoint. But again, you're talking about a guy, again, to me, the ultimate red flag was not beating out a fifth round draft pick. That's what Quinn Ewers was like, I think, a fifth round draft pick. Not a first round pick, not a top five pick, not a top 10 pick, a fifth round, like a legitimate guy that was almost didn't get drafted. You couldn't beat that guy out. So how good are you? I again, I think been around sports a long time to know, especially when it comes to quarterbacking, when a guy is special and when he's not. I don't think you're not saying you don't with the quarterback position in college or NFL. You're not saying he could be special. It's either he's special or he's not. Now, Arch Manning could still be very good. He could still play on Sunday possibly, and it's not like he's in a program that Texas is loaded with talent. They were loaded last year. They're loaded this year. They have a great defense. They have guys that are going to play on Sunday. A number of guys that are going to play on Sunday on both sides of the ball. So again, yeah, it's very interesting, man. When we put these titles on people, and again that title of generational, I don't. It's really it's become an overused term, to be honest with you, in sports. You could be great and not be generational. You could be a great talent, a generational talent. So he was bad in the game. Um, Again, 3 years of eligibility left, or 2 years after this year. Um, Again, the body of work is just not there. Like last year, 61 completions, 939 yards, nine touchdowns, two interceptions. It's like, okay. Even with the running last year, 25 carries for 108 yards. Four did have four touchdowns. Um, I haven't seen it. And again, I don't gauge him by these next, like Texas schedule coming up. Uh, Texas has, let me see here. San Jose State, UTEP, Sam Houston. You can't get those are three cupcakes. I don't. He could put up a number of stats. He probably is going to put up big stats in those particular games and have everybody not talking about him at least until they get to the Florida game. But I can't you gauge him against Florida. You gauge him against Oklahoma. You gauge him against Georgia, Texas A&M. Um, those are the teams you gauge. Those are the teams. Even a team like Arkansas. Who's probably not gonna be. You gauge him against the SEC competition. You gauge him against. Those are the games that you say, okay, what are you made of? And again, if he doesn't come in with the term generational talent, if he's not coming in as the, again, that's what I'm saying. I wonder. I wonder, like You can't sit there and tell me if you're an NFL scout that you think that guy is the clear cut number one pick in the draft, like in all the mock drafts. Like that, you can't tell me that looking at that coming into in this season. Forget about the performance on Saturday. You can't sit up and tell me that that guy is definitively the number one pick in the draft. Like you just, like, I'm sorry, you just can't. Based off what? What are we basing this off? So, uh, well, it's gonna be interesting to see how he handles, this bit of adversity. This is really his first major adversity where he has all eyes on him, or coming in with the hype, coming in playing for a team that's expected to compete for a national championship. A team that's going to be on television just about almost every week. One of the premier teams in college football, one of the premier programs right now in college football. I want to see. I want to see. Let's see what he's made of. Let's absolutely see what he's made of. But let's not use that term generational when it comes to Arch Manning. Alabama, a team that I told you that I was going to be keeping my eyes on all season. A team that was one of I thought that the most intriguing team of the college football season, depending coming off last year, which was a major disappointment, and they got their asses handed to them by Florida State, my Florida State Seminoles, 31-17. I want to say this. This is what Alabama is right now. It is not a small body of work. They are coming off a season last year. They are 5-5 in their last 10 games, 1-4 in their last 5 games. This is who Alabama is at the moment. And you wonder about Kalen DeBoer, um, not as a coach, but dealing with the pressure cooker that he's going to have to deal with in terms of Alabama. How much patience will Alabama have with him? Um, you don't replace. There's no replacing Nick Saban. Like Nick Saban is talk about the term generational. Nick Saban is a once in a lifetime coach. Like Nick Saban, you don't like you go Bear Bryant, Nick Saban, those coaches. I mean, they don't. You don't replace those coaches. And you look over the course of college sports, even the pros. The Miami Dolphins have yet to replace Don Shula. Don Shula, this will mark the 30th anniversary of the last year Don Shula coached the Dolphins in the 1995 season. They haven't come close to the consistency of the success they had with Don Shula. Forget about Super Bowls. Haven't even sniffed that. Not even come close. Indiana basketball, Bob Knight, they got to a championship game in '02. That was a blip. That was kind of like a fluke. Haven't come close to having that type of success. North Carolina got lucky with replacing Dean Smith because you had another Hall of Fame coach who happened to be his assistant for a decade that ended up going and rebuilding a Kansas program that was that he inherited that was in terrible shape with the NCAA allegations, and he turned that program into a powerhouse again. And he was fortunate. North Carolina got lucky that Dean Smith asked for the second time, Roy, come home, and he came home to North Carolina, and they won 3 national championships. Otherwise, if Roy Williams doesn't come back to North Carolina, stays at Kansas, North Carolina doesn't, to me, doesn't sniff a championship over the like post Bill Guthridge 97, who did a wonderful job in 97, 98. There's only been one program that has replaced a legendary coach that I can think of in the college ranks, and that has still kept on to not only won but excelled, and that's Connecticut. That's Connecticut. Jim Calhoun builds Connecticut from basically from the ground up, wins 3 national championships. Kevin Kevin Ollie wins a championship there in 2014. Then Dan Hurley wins 2 championships back to back in 23-24. It's the only situation that I've seen a program replace a legendary coach, an iconic coach, not just a great coach, an iconic coach, and have sustained success and even just as much, if not even more success. Like Dan Hurley already has 2 championships in his short tenure at UConn. Though the Mike of the world, those guys, you don't replace those guys. And with Alabama, they're still getting recruits, but here's the problem with Alabama: the quarterback is good. It was a time when Alabama could win. I'm looking at their quarterbacks, right? The quarterbacks that Alabama won championships with, and they Greg McElroy's, Blake Sims, or not, or either won championship with or went to college foot playoff, went to college football playoff with. You need a Tua, you need a Bryce Young, you need a Jalen Hurts level quarterback at Alabama. You're not going anywhere with with Mac Jones or a guy. You have to or this guy that they have now. You have to have a great quarterback because the rest of the roster. The bottom line is Alabama still gets great players, but they're not getting the cream of the crop when it comes in comparison to other programs. There used to be a time where Alabama out recruited everybody by far. They had by far the best players. They were putting in more NFL players than anybody year in and year out. And they didn't need a superstar quarterback. They needed a quarterback to make a couple plays here and there. We're going to dominate the ball from the line of scrimmage. We're going to dominate the ball, turn you over, stop the run the ball. No, no, no. No, that's no longer the case anymore. They need a quarterback that raises the ceiling of the rest of the team or that can cover up for holes that the rest of the team may have. Because they're not going to overwhelm you at the line of scrimmage anymore. They're not going to overwhelm you with talent anymore. They have come back to the pack just enough to where they're not to where that quarterback position, they have to have a great quarterback um, in order to compete at a championship level. They have to have a Heisman Trophy level quarterback. And who knows? Florida State. It may a month from now, 2 months from now, we look back at it and say, hey, Florida State could be a top 10, top 15 team. I mean, Florida State. 2 years ago they were 13-0 going into what should have been the playoff. We know they somewhat got robbed with the unfortunate injury situation with the quarterback, but Florida State played well in that game. Not sure if Florida State certainly is going to be improved from their 2-10 season campaign last year. But this is about Alabama, and Alabama is in a situation where they are mere mortals. Like they have come back. They're not Alabama anymore. They're not. No one fears Alabama anymore. To a point where you have the opposing team's quarterback basically call his shot and was like, yo, Nick Saban can't save y'all. When was that? I mean, players don't talk. Think about it. When's the last time I heard a player talk shit about Alabama before an upcoming game? I can't remember it. Opposing players wasn't talking shit when Nick about, and calling Nick Saban by name. But like that shit didn't happen. So to me, if you're killing DeBoer, you have to land the best quarterback, who's ever the top quarterback recruit in the country, who's ever that it guy, who's ever that guy who could be a possible number one draft pick, um, drop dead quarterback. That's the type of player you have to have on this team on Alabama moving forward. You're not winning with a run of a mill quarterback at Alabama anymore. It's just not going to happen. They don't have the roster to support that. Very good game with Miami and Notre Dame. I give Notre Dame a lot of credit. At one point, they were being down 21-7. They had, suffered a couple turnovers. They're, in Miami, crowds going crazy. Carson Beck throwing the ball relatively well. And then Notre Dame just hung in the game and really made Miami earn the victory. Yeah, you give Miami credit too. That's a game maybe Miami loses last year. They blew a lot, blew a few leads last year, especially came apart at the seams at the end of the season. Um, Miami has top talent. Both these teams are very talented, especially defensively. Um, Beck is going to be in the mix for the Heisman Trophy for sure. Um, I like Notre Dame's physicality on both on especially with the defensive lines. I think they're still very good defensively. Those turnovers, obviously, those turnovers just gave away basically 10 to 14 points. And on the road, you're not going to survive that facing another top 10, another top five, top 10 team on the road. But so both of these teams, I think both of these teams will be in the playoffs. To be honest with you, um, so this was the best game of the weekend as far as ranked teams playing level of play. You certainly were pleased. You certainly some things, a lot to like from both of these particular teams moving forward. As far as the Bill Belichick experiment last night, um, similar to Alabama, I would say that this is something that I'm sorry, I can't say that I'm surprised. TCU goes down there, they embarrass North Carolina. North Carolina has 70 new players on their team. It's harder to coach college football now than it's ever been. You have a guy that has never coached college football. I don't care what he did in the NFL with the 6 rings. That does not translate to college football. It's different. It's a whole different ball game. It's a whole different ball game, especially now in the NIL transfer portal era of college football. Players don't care about Bill Belichick's name. They don't. They don't give a shit about those 6 rings. I'm telling you right now, that does not. That yeah, that's not. If I'm a top recruit, I'm not. I respect Bill Belichick's knowledge of football, but that pedigree of winning Super Bowls does not is not going to get me to sign with the University of North Carolina. Um, I thought Bill Belichick was up against it coming into the situation. Now you look at the prospects of an ACC that could be absolutely loaded. I mean, Miami and Clemson. Clemson lost to LSU. Great win for LSU, by the way. In Death Valley in Clemson. That was a tremendous win. They seemed to fix their defensive issues from last year. Big win for Brian Kelly and that program. LSU should be amongst the SEC contenders and possibly a national championship contender moving forward. They already have an excellent quarterback that's going to be a top five, probably draft pick in the 26th draft. But the ACC could be loaded. You're talking Miami, if Florida State is even close to what they were on Saturday, and of course Clemson will still be, I think, a top 10 team this year. And North Carolina, you know, you look at that team last night, and it was like they're a team that they look like a team that has 70 new players. They don't have a quarterback. Their starting quarterback went 2 hours in real time, went 2 hours without completing a pass. You bring in Brad Johnson's son, who almost had his leg amputated, coming off that horrific injury, the Alex Smith injury from last year. Just happy to be playing. I'm sure blessed to be playing, but they don't have a quarterback. And again, if you're Bill Belichick, this is this is a whole different ball game. It's a whole like this is you recruiting college football. Old coaches don't really. I've never known for old coaches in recent memory to mix in terms of college football. And I was really thinking about that. Like, when's the last great old coach? And you can't count Nick Saban is an alien. You can't count Nick Saban. Nick Saban's age was not the read like Nick Saban was at a point where he was so established that it wasn't even about his age per se. But I mean, it was old coaches, Paterno, Bobby Bowden. Those guys eventually got to a point where their age was used against them in regards to recruiting, especially Bobby Bowden. I just don't think that college football is a old man sport for coaching. Like Bill says, what, 75? Now again, if you're like I again, I didn't understand this from like from either party. I didn't understand this from both. I didn't understand this from Belichick or from North Carolina. Like I'm sorry, I just if in North Carolina, you know, yeah, the name is great. It's iconic from an NFL standpoint, but does that translate to college football in 2025? Again, this is new for Belichick. All this is new. How this is brand new for him. And I don't think Bill Belichick somehow forgot how to coach. No, I don't. But look at those last couple of years of at New England. They did not go. It didn't go well. So it's not like Bill was coming off, a couple of championship appearances in the Super Bowl with New England. Those last 3 or 4 years were not good. Period. Like so, he wins the Super Bowl in 2018. They lose the playoff game to the Titans in 19, and after that, it's basically like it was he was bad in New England those last 3 to 4 years. It was bad. So I'm not the least bit surprised that you know that you're gonna have this type of learning curve coming into again a college football era where it is in college sport and look at college sports in general, right? Look at the coaches that walked away because of how challenging it is to coach in this era with everything that you have to deal with the NIL transfer portal. They've lost Saban, Tony Bennett Jr. from Virginia, and Jay Wright from Villanova. All three of those guys will be in the Hall of Fame someday. All three of those guys have championships. Saban and Jay Wright multiple championships. Bennett brought Virginia basketball their only championship, and turned it for a 4 to 5 year period into a powerhouse. All those guys walked away because of the current landscape of college football and how challenging it is. Jay Wright's not old. Tony Bennett for sure is not old. You don't think? I mean, you don't think Nick Saban would have wanted to coach another 3 to 4 years? So we're talking about three top coaches in their respective sports who understood the college game, knew the college football game, college basketball and football game inside out, and they didn't want to deal with this, and they kind of struggled towards the end of their particular careers. So what do you expect from a guy who never coached college football in his life? So I have, I, I just don't. Does Bill have the patience to build this program? Because this is not a 1 to 2 year thing. This is a 3 to 4 year rebuild. This is not Texas. This is not Ohio State. They're not even Florida State. This is North Carolina football here. This is a 3 to 4 year rebuilding. Minimum 3 years. Minimum. You gotta get at least. He's gonna have to get at least 2 to 3 recruiting classes in. So again, I listen. I think best case scenario. If if Bill Belichick, if there's any interest from an NFL team towards Bill Belichick, I think Bill jump ship will jump ship after 1 year. I do. I really do. I don't think Bill Belichick is going to take losing in college. That's just not. I just don't see it. I just don't see Bill Belichick dealing with getting his ass kicked at North Carolina. Like I just don't see it. I think like his the pride, the ego is just not going. Like he's too old. Like he's going to say I'm too old to be getting my ass kicked at the University of North Carolina. I'm sorry. I don't need the money anymore. I'm good. I will either retire or go back to the NFL. NFL Week One. There are a number of quality matchups that that will transpire on Week One. Headline, of course, by the AFC divisional matchup between the last two MVPs in Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. The game will be because at Buffalo, a big game. Even though it's only week one, we're talking about home field advantage. This game possibly could decide home field advantage depending on what transpires, of course, the next 18 weeks. But so you have that headline the week. Of course, Thursday, Cowboys, Eagles. Everybody's going to be talking about Micah Parsons and the league. And can Philadelphia repeat? We will get to the Micah Parsons trade later on in the podcast. Chiefs Chargers will be on YouTube in Brazil. I'll be in Brazil on Friday, so it's the second year in a row we see NFL going back to back Friday, kicking off the season with back to back games on Thursday and Friday, and then a good slate of Sunday games. I mean, the Buccaneers Falcons, Buccaneers Falcons. Um, you have 49ers Seahawks, Lions Packers, of course. Lions Packers, of course, will be the headline for the 425. Excuse me, 425 window. Texans Rams is a night is a very good game. Both playoff teams from last year. Monday night game Vikings Bears. We'll see if we'll see Ben Johnson what he can do with Caleb Williams. So a very good week one in the NFL to say the least. Um, I think the Friday game. Listen, the NFL can do whatever the hell they want. They can come on at any night. People are going to watch Friday night. That's why it's doing. So the NFL's got to the point where they can show whatever they can do whatever they want. As far as it doesn't matter, Friday night is a horrible night for television. Some of the worst shows get on Friday night with the NFL. That it just doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. I'm thinking about this Baltimore Buffalo game. Listen, I got to a point. I'm so tired of the MVP, the relitigation of the MVP conversation between Allen and Lamar Jackson, especially people who pretend like Josh Allen had no business winning MVP. I was certainly not in that camp. I told you I was in the camp. I would have voted for Josh Allen, but I would have had no problem with Lamar Jackson winning it. If you're somebody in a Lamar Jackson fan, if you're a Baltimore Ravens fan, the last thing you should be worried about is the fact that Lamar Jackson didn't win his third MVP. Um, you should be concerned about Lamar Jackson before his performance in the playoff game against Buffalo, with a loaded, stacked roster that they had. That MVP, listen, he's won two MVPs. He may win more. It's not even about the individual stuff at this point. It's about championships at this point. It's about playoff wins and getting to the Super Bowl and winning championships. Forget all forget all these individual accolades with MVPs, offensive player of years, and rushing numbers. It's not. It's about winning. That's it. That's what's all at this point in his career. He's at a level to where it's Super Bowl or bust. He's at that point right now. So I don't, all this stuff. I don't want to hear about how many MVPs he deserves. It doesn't matter um, when it comes to quarterbacking. You get judged by getting your team in the end zone and how many championships you win. That's how you get judged, especially when you get to a certain level, to an MVP type level, which he is at. When you're one of the top three quarterbacks in the league, which he is I don't. It's not about the individual awards. Like, no, we don't sit up here and count how many MVPs Peyton Manning has won or how many MVPs Joe Montana, Brady has won. They are part of their legacy, but they are judged by rings. Period. That's how you judge as a quarterback once you get to a certain level. How many championships did you win? And he's at that level now where, again, I don't care how many MVPs he wins or doesn't win. What are how many rings do you have? How many Super Bowl appearances do you have? That's what it's all about at this point. So forget about this. Please forget about the MVP shit. It's done. If he wins the MVP this year and gets knocked out in the playoffs, are you gonna just be talking about the three MVPs with no Super Bowl appearances? It's about the championships. That's what it's about as a quarterback. That's how you're judged. Best of the 21st century. The We go back to the 2001 Miami Hurricanes. This was one of the great college football teams in the last, forget about 25 years. Maybe one of the great college football teams in the last 40 years. This team obviously went undefeated, 12-0 under Larry Coker. They dominated the college football season. They really had only two close games. Um, Boston College and Virginia Tech. You look at them statistically, you know, they didn't just beat people, they annihilate people. They averaged 42 points a game, only gave up 9 points a game. 38 future NFL draft picks would come from this team, including 17 first round picks in the 2022 draft. Uh, Look at this the running back room: Clinton Portis, Willis McGahee, Frank Gore. And this really was a three led by, of course, Larry Coker, who was one of the more underrated coaches. I think his record, it didn't end well for him in his college football career at UTSA at University of Texas at San Antonio. Then he only finished 22 and 26 there. At Miami, he was 60 and 15 with a 800 winning percentage and was 4-2 in bowl games. And they had a stretch. They had a stretch from 2000 to 2002 where they're 45 and 3 and easily could have won three straight national championships. If you remember in 2000, they um they beat Florida State during the regular season, but Florida State ended up getting chosen over them. This was pre playoff. This was the BCS. This was when college football was wild. Like this when the computers were basically picking the teams. The BCS, and somehow the BCS picks Florida State, and Florida State, of course, got embarrassed by Oklahoma. But Miami probably was the best team in college football that year. And then, of course, they dominated in 2001. You go fast forward to 2002, they lose a heartbreaking national championship game to Ohio State, Jim Tressel, in which controversial pass interference call that would have ended the game. So they easily could have won three straight national championships. That's how dominant this team was. This to me, when I look at the dominant teams in the last 25 years, you think USC 2004, um, Alabama, pick an Alabama team, '09 or 2011, um, one of the Florida teams. You can certainly choose one of the Florida teams. This team was right. This was the best team I saw in the last 25 years. Like, and it pains me to say as a Florida State fan, Florida State 2013 was dominant that year as well with Jameis Winston. But this team, they were. Matter of fact, I saw them play at. This is when Temple was in the Big East. They were in the Big East with Temple. Homecoming in 2001. Well, no, was it 2000, 2001? I think it was 2000. I want to say either I don't think it was 2001. It actually was 2000. So, but many of the players that were on the 2001 team were on that 2000 team, and this is Ed Reed and all those guys, and they didn't. This was not a college team. They looked like a bunch of pros, which they were playing college football. And of course, they beat the hell out of Temple, but just watching them in person, how many athletes they had on the field, the speed, just pros up and down the board at every position. I mean, at every position. Ken Dorsey was a good quarterback. He wasn't. And this is when you didn't. This is you didn't need a great quarterback. You just needed a serviceable quarterback, and he was an above average college quarterback. But you look at this team. Look at the run they had. They go, like I said, they go 11-1, 12-0, uh 11-1, 12-0, 12-1, and 11-2. from 2000 to 2003. So again, Coker had a tremendous run where you had basically 4 straight years of 11 or more wins. You know, you finish they finish 1, 2, and 5 in terms of the top five. They're in the Rose, the Orange Bowl each year. That's when the program was the last. That's when they were at their last dominance, the last piece of dominance that Miami has had. Um, and even last year we couldn't compare as far as talent goes. So, but that 2001 team is one of those teams that will go down for the ages. As far as just how many, again, just how much talent they had. And again, listen, they were in the Big East. The Big East is not a big time conference. But when you dominate at the level that they dominated, and when they had to play teams that outside the conference, they still dominate. Like they still beat those teams. Like they beat Florida State, they beat Florida one year. So when they played teams that were anywhere close to their level, they still um, were able to handle those teams. And again, I just look at the record. You know, 45 and 3 in a 3 year span, and look at the legacy. Even like 24 years later, this team is still talked about as being one of the great teams of one of the great college football teams of all time. Going to end this in the program with real thoughts again. So Micah Parsons traded from the Dallas Cowboys to the Green Bay Packers. Two first round picks and Kenny Clark. Um, this was rumored for a couple of weeks with Green Bay. We had heard these rumors for about a couple of weeks, maybe even a month, that if there was going to be a team that was going to trade for him, that Green Bay was the top, was going to be that team. Even with that said, I still didn't believe that it was going to happen. Um, this is Jerry Jones at like Mr. Burns doing like Mr. Burns type shit. This is Jerry Jones just completely, just to me, unhinged. To be honest with you, so it, Micah Parsons again is 26 years old. Outside of quarterback, there's no more valuable NFL asset than a drop dead pass rushing beast that Micah Parsons is. He's one of the best pure pass rushers in the league. Now I don't want to hear. Again, now it's funny. Now he can't play the run, which is not true, by the way. It's just the fact that if you're going to attack him, the way to attack him would be running at him. It's not that he's bad against the run, that he can't defend the run, but when you are like the best in the world at rushing the passer, then yeah, I'm going to. I'd rather run at you than try to beat you with power than beat you with speed and athleticism. But he can play the run like that. Don't if you listen to some of these people that are pro this trade, you would think that Michael Parsons is just it's not an every down player, which he is. Um, so if you want to convince yourself, if you're a Cowboys fan, you want to really, really convince yourself that this was in the best interest of the organization, knock yourself out. If you really want to think that these four draft picks and Kenny Clark equate to Micah Parsons, who is a generational talent, he's a generational pass rusher. We can use the word generational for Micah Parsons for sure. Then go ahead, convince yourself that this was for the best interest of your franchise. That you have a guy who, again, is only 26 years old. If if this deal was made and he was like 30, 29 or 30, okay, cool. I wouldn't have as much problem with it. I probably still wouldn't make it, but I would be like, all right, I don't. want to be paying a guy that type of money as a 33, 34-year-old pass rusher. We He's 26 and you have not seen the best. I don't think there he can still go up a couple levels. Like we have it is not conceivable that this he could be a 20 sack player and that he could break the all-time single season record for sacks. That's not if you tell me that happens next year or the year after, I'm not surprised. These are guys that you just don't trade. You just don't. And the ideal that you only get two first round picks for a guy like the NFL, like you have NFL teams that are, like I said, outside of quarterbackers, the outside of quarterback, this is the guy that you want on your team. This is like a dominant pass rusher is something, again, is the second most, to me, the second most valuable commodity in all of football. A dominant pass rusher, somebody that can put the quarterback on his ass. And the bottom line is Jerry Jones allowed his own, his ego, his emotion to get in the way of common sense. Like didn't want to deal with the agent. Um, Wanted to make a deal without the agent, and Michael Parsons and the agent was like, "This is not happening," and here we go. I'm good. Trade me. I'm good. And with Jerry Jones, the thing about it is Jerry Jones is what 82 years old. When you make deals like this, you're not. It's not going to make you better right now. It's just like as bad as their defense. You're telling me that their defense is going to be better without clearly their best player. They were horrible last year, and he missed. He missed. I think he missed like 4 games last year. You think their defense is going to be improved this year without a guy who's not only the best player on defense, but the best player on that team? And as far as the draft picks goes, yeah, you have 4 picks in the next 2 years. Okay, cool. 4 picks in the next 2 years. Who's still making the decisions? It's Jerry Jones. It's Jerry Jones. And I just think Jerry's at a stage of his career, of his life, where he just don't give a fuck. I got the biggest brand in sports. I'm making money hand over foot. Um, I could deal with the criticism of not winning a championship as long as this brand is where it's at. We're gonna be on television almost every week. We're gonna have a bunch of primetime games. We're gonna be the most talked about team in the NFL, maybe one of the most talked about teams in sports. I think Jerry actually justifies how bad he's been in the front office for the fact that this team is such a polarizing team. Coming off of now a Netflix documentary. So I just think this is where Jerry's at right now. I don't think Jerry Jones gives a fuck about the perception of him. I don't think he gives a fuck about like the idea during the press conference. Jerry said this was a unanimous decision. Like this was I like, come on, Jerry. There's only one voice that matters in that organization. That's Jerry Jones. That's the voice that matters. Sorry, I'm not buying that the coaches, that Steve, and that everybody was in on this move. No, like, come on, like, what are we saying here? What are we saying? And again, you're trading. Michael Parsons is literally one of the greatest players to ever get traded. And I say that when you talk about, and I say that guys don't get traded at this stage in their career at with they it just we don't see trades like this. You don't see 26-year-old superstar players, or star player, superstar players, all pro type players getting traded like this in football. It just doesn't happen. Like you could look at some of the greatest players that we've seen traded. Von Miller 2021, AJ Brown 2022, Steve Largent in 76, Brett Favre in '08, Randy Moss in '07. Brett Favre in '08 was in the twilight of his career, but was coming off an all-pro season with Minnesota, and then he got into a conference championship. No, excuse me. Let me get that correct. Brett Favre, the '07 season, Green Bay gets to a conference championship. And yeah, Green Bay got to a conference championship in '07. So Brett Favre finished second in MVP that year. Finished second in MVP that year, and I think he got traded. I believe he got traded to the Jets. Yes, got traded to the Jets, coming off a season where he was second to MVP. Randy Moss in '07, of course, that was the absolute steal. Uh, like he's still, the Raiders, they got fleeced by the Patriots. But this is, I mean, but even Randy Moss at that stage in his career was close to 30. I want to say Randy Moss draft. Randy Moss is 98 draft. So Randy Moss was approaching 30 in 2007. I want to say close to 30. He wasn't as young as Michael Parsons is. Michael Parsons is. You don't see guys that age who still can get better get traded. Like it just doesn't happen. Michael, and there's a reason why it doesn't get happen. You can franchise a guy or make him just play out his contract or make him go another year, play out another year on his contract. But Jerry was Jerry's gonna do Jerry. Like Jerry again is at a point in his career where he just doesn't give a shit about I think Jerry just doesn't give a shit about winning like everybody thinks he does, to be honest with you. I think he's really the attention. I think Jerry's just addicted to the attention, and that really has just sapped any. And again, I've never thought Jerry Jones was a great. It's never been proven to be a great general manager. Anyway, we don't have to relitigate the Jimmy Johnson shit that we had for the past however many years. But I think he's making move. There was a period when he was drafting where I think he somewhat was listening to his people around him. That's not the case anymore. I think it's all is this is all this decision is all Jerry Jones. This was all about Jerry Jones. So the Cowboys. I don't see how you improve on defense losing your best player. They are to me rebuilding. Like Dak Prescott is not going to get any better. I mean, it's not getting better. Um, he's hit his ceiling as far as what he's to me has clearly hit his ceiling. So Cowboys they'll be talked about, but I you're a Cowboy fan. I don't see how you can remotely. I'm 5-12, 6-11. I think they'll be somewhere between 5-12, and I would say 7-10. I think they're that type of team, 5-12 and 7-10. To be perfectly honest with you, I still think they'll be able to stop the run. Kenny Clark is a very good player. He's not Aaron Donald or Chris Jones. I mean, he's a nice player. Nice player. He's not this dominant run stopper. Like, let's calm down on that. Calm down about Kenny Clark. Now Kenny Clark is, Warren Sapp now. Like, chill out on Kenny Clark. He's a very good player, but not this dynamic run stopper. And he's approaching 30. He'll be 30 when the season, like in October. So again, Cowboys will be the most talked about team with very little to show for it in terms of the win column. That's going to wrap it up for this latest edition of the Ril Dil Podcast. I will see you next time. Have a great rest of your week. So long.